Hello, year 11s. Hope you're keeping well. We're continuing on with our trigonometry today. We're going to look at the cosine rule and we're going to use it to find an angle. Now, this is one of my favorite lessons and also one of the most hideous lessons that I ever remember doing when I was in school. You'll see why in a bit. It's a little bit interesting. The starter is not about the cosine rule. I believe it's about something else. I found this somewhere online. I don't know. I thought it was a really cool question. I've not seen too many questions of algebra linked up with the sine and cosine rule, so I thought this would be a really cool question to start on. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video now. Maybe you want to pause the video as well and work out how big is x, and then also how long is the length from B to C. All right, go ahead. All right, so maybe you paused the video, maybe you didn't, maybe you're still listening to me. I have no idea. Maybe you just want a hint. Up here it says it is a level 7 question. I think that that is a lie. I would say this is a grade 8 question. There's a lot of things happening in this question. The diagram below shows a triangle with angles x, 50 degrees, and 2x minus 35. Work out the value of x. Well, it's a triangle, and last time I checked, all the angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. So adding up these three angles here, I would end up with 3x plus 15 is equal to 180. And then subtract 15 and divide by 3. X is equal to 55. So now that I know that x is 55, I can replace all of these angles with what I need to know. So this side is 55. 55 times 2 is 110, minus 35 is 75. So now that I've got all three of my angles, I can go ahead and use my my sine rule. They want me to calculate the length of B, so I'm going to need this angle and this side, and then thankfully I also have this angle and this side over here. I'm just going to write in the corner because it's going to be easier. So I'm looking for, I'll call this, we shouldn't call it X because we already had an X. We'll just call it BC. So BC is the side that we're looking for. BC divided by the sine of 75 is equal to 12 divided by the sine of 55. Then we type that into our calculator and rearrange things. 12 divided by the sine of 55 times by the sine of 75. And assuming I didn't do anything wrong on my calculator, I found out that BC is 14.15. So I'm going to call it 14.2. All right, there we go. I really like that question. I don't know why. I know I get way too excited about these questions. All right, so that was our starter. Let's look at what we're going to do today. So the main plan for today is, can you memorize the cosine rule and recall it? And can you use it to find a missing angle? I've also added in a few questions that maybe use the sine and cosine rule together in the same question. So you have to decide which one you want to use. Let's get started. So we're actually going to use the same rule as yesterday. I don't want you to memorize anything new. You're quite good mathematicians, so I would like you to just use the same rule as yesterday, but we're just going to rearrange it. So today we're going to be looking at finding an angle. So this bit at the top is actually a little bit of a lie. I probably should have changed that, and I think I just got too excited about everything. We can use the cosine rule, yes, when we have two sides and the contained angle, but we can also use it when we have all three sides. If we have all three sides, we're going to have side A, side B, and side C, which means we also have B and C here, which means the thing that we're looking for is the angle. So if we have all three sides, we can actually use that to find one of the missing angles. All right, here we go. I will explain this. So a nice straightforward question to start with. It says calculate the size of x. X is the angle that is at angle A, so everything's been labeled really nicely for us. I'm going to put some lowercase letters on the triangle to also help us out. So directly across from angle A is little side A, directly across from angle B is little side B, and directly across from angle C is little side C. Now, similar to yesterday's lesson, B and C still don't actually matter. The only thing that matters is the angle that we're looking for, we need to make sure that whatever angle we're looking for, the opposite side, they go together, because we need to make sure that we're using this letter A here with this capital letter A here. So I'm going to go ahead and, like I said yesterday, I'm going to write down the formula. A squared is equal to B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cosine A. And then I'm just going to go ahead and fill in what I know. Okay, so I know A is 8. So if 8 squared is equal to 9 squared plus 7 squared minus 2 times by 9 times by 7 times by the cosine of A. I don't know how much A is. I'd like to find that. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move these two things over to the other side. Okay, we can go ahead and square them if you'd like. It doesn't actually make a difference which order you do that in. So I'm going to have 64 minus 81 minus 49. So I squared the 9 and I squared the 7 and I moved them to the other side. And then that is equal to negative, really important that you look at that negative there, because what's left is minus 2 times 9 times 7. And I believe that's 126 times by the cosine of angle A. Now, I did say it was times by, but I'm going to write it in red as well. Don't forget there's a times by happening right there. So on the left-hand side, we have 64, take away 81, take away 49, and that is negative 66. Don't panic about the negatives, but make sure that you include them. So you've got negative 66 over there, and negative 126 times by the cosine of A. You don't have to write the times by, I'm just using that because I'm explaining this for the first time. So then what we're going to do is divide both sides by negative 126, and we get negative 66 divided by negative 126 is the cosine of angle A. And then obviously the negatives cancel each other out, so if we want to find angle A, we're just looking for the cosine inverse of 66 over 126. And you pop that into your calculator, cosine inverse 66 divided by 126, and this time I get angle A is equal to 58.4 degrees. Okay. Now, I secretly love this topic and also kind of hate it. I generally seem to make silly mistakes when I'm rearranging things, but all it is a substitution and a rearrange. So as long as you remember to subtract b squared and c squared and then divide by what's in front of the cosine of A, you will be fine. All right, I think we should have a go at another one. When we look at the next example, if you think you got it, maybe pause it and then check that you got it correct, or otherwise just move right on. Okay, so this question is already a little bit trickier, only because they didn't label it for us, which makes it trickier and maybe easier all at the same time. So again, we have to calculate the size of x. X is an angle. I'm going to start by calling that capital A because that is the easiest formula I know. And so the side that's opposite that must be little side A. I'm going to go ahead and write down my formula so I can remember it. A squared is equal to B squared plus C squared minus 2 lots of BC cosine A. All right, and then I'm just going to fill in exactly what I know. I'm not going to be bothered about which side is B and C for the other two because it's not going to make a difference. So I end up with 18.7 squared is equal to 15.8 squared plus 13.3 squared minus 2 times by 15.8 times 13.3, oh no, I'm running out of room, times by the cosine of angle A. All right, now I'm just going to put this into my calculator. I'm going to subtract the 15.8 squared and the 13.3 squared on the left-hand side. So I've got 18.7 squared minus 15.8 squared minus 13.3 squared. So I'm going to work that out, and it gives me, oh, not a horrible decimal. I get negative 76.84. And on the right, I've got 15.8 times 13.3 times by negative 2, which is negative 420.28 times by the cosine of A. Okay, and then I can go ahead and divide both sides by negative 420.28, but because both of them are negatives, it's actually going to end up canceling each other out. So I'm going to end up with 76.84 divided by 420.28, and that gives me the cosine of A. So A must be the cosine inverse of that fraction. All right, we pop that into our calculator. Cosine inverse 76.84 divided by 420.28, and we get a lovely answer. Angle A is 79.5 degrees. Okay, hopefully that's maybe making some sense. I'm going to check and see if the next example is any different. There is something that can change a little bit in these questions. When we do our subtractions of our b squared and c squared, sometimes we don't end up with a negative number, and we should probably look at an example for that. Okay, but otherwise, that is pretty much how we use the cosine rule to calculate a missing angle. All right? Okay, so this last example is exactly what I was trying to explain briefly at the end of my last explanation. So I'm just going to run through this again. We're looking to find angle X, which is, I'm going to call angle A here. I'm going to write down my formula. A squared is B squared plus C squared minus 2 lots of BC cosine A. Substitute in what I know. 12.2 squared is equal to 8.5 squared plus 5.3 squared minus 2 times by 8.5 times 5.3 times the cosine of A. So now when I square 8.5 and 5.3 and subtract them, I actually get a positive this time. So I end up with 48.5 is equal to 8.5 times 2 times 5.3 negative 90.1 cosine A. Okay, you can't just always assume that both are going to be positive or both are going to be negative. In this case, you can see one is positive and one is negative. Dividing both sides by minus 90.1, I find the cosine of A. And then when I want to find angle A, I take the inverse of that. Now, when you're doing this, you can put the negative wherever you would like. You can put it in the top of your fraction. You can put it in the bottom of your fraction. You can put it at the start of your fraction. It doesn't actually make a difference as to where you put this into the question. If you'd like to keep it the way that it looks on the paper, that's absolutely fine. Okay, and we have a negative value within the bracket, which is why we have an obtuse angle here. So I got 122.6 degrees. Okay, I really think that that is all the things I need to tell you about the cosine rule. So your task for today is there's a handful of questions for you to try on the Google slide. There's about 6 questions, and then I tried to find some slightly fancier ones. I'm also trying to not give you heaps of things to do today because I'm also going to give you a homework task as well. All right, do let me know if you have any questions just by adding a comment below in the Google Classroom. Have a good day, and I will see you later. Bye.